Good evening and thank you for joining us on India Business Hour. I'm Parikshit Luthra and here are the headlines we are tracking at this hour. Market snaps its 4-day losing streak to start the week on a positive note. Nifty reclaims the 18,000 mark as all sectoral indices trade in the green except Nifty Pharma. The Sensex gained 721 points, the rupee ends stronger than Friday. The CBI gets additional 3 days custody of Chanda Kochar, her husband Deepak and Venugopal Dhoot in the ICICI Bank loan case. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that Dhoot has offered to turn an approver in the matter. Jet Airways sees exits among its rank as clouds of uncertainty hover over the airline's relaunch. While CEO and CFO continue to remain on reduced pay, senior management staff, pilots, cabin crew quit and join other airlines. That's an exclusive. Private equity investor Advent is set to acquire control of Suven Pharma from the selling promoters, who see this as a succession move. The 6,300 crore rupee deal opens up the possibility of Suven's merger with Cohance and triggers an open offer to existing shareholders. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman admitted to AIIMS with symptoms of viral fever. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the 63-year-old is recovering. Health Minister interacts with doctors, tells them that Indians have developed natural immunity due to the absence of a zero-COVID policy like China and high vaccination rate. Urges doctors to share only accurate information with the public. Less than 200 new COVID cases were reported in the last 24 hours. The government looks to reap fiscal positives as it allows the PM Kisan Anna Yojana to sunset. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that the additional annual cost for distributing free food grains under the Food Security Act is hardly 0.1% of the GDP. This additional 20,000 to 25,000 crore cost is already included in the 2 lakh crore food subsidy estimate for calendar year 2023. Cold wave grips large parts of northern India, with the mercury dipping considerably in Delhi, Punjab, UP, Haryana and Rajasthan. The Met Department says that cold wave conditions will prevail over the next 2 days and then abate. On to the day's trading action. Dalal Street saw a strong bounce to snap its 4-day losing streak. Nifty and Sensex gained over 1%, with the Nifty reclaiming that 18,000 mark. Financials and mid-caps outperformed. All sectoral indices ended in the red except for Pharma. Prashant Nair is here with the market action. Prashant.
Very decent bounce coming in the market today. The Nifty on Friday lost 300 points. It gained back 200 of those points by close. It would have been even better, but in the last 30-40 minutes or so, the market gave back, on the Nifty, it gave back 80 points and, proportionately on the banks as well. But after 2 days of gut-wrenching kind of sell-offs, this is a good outcome that we've had today. Some stability coming back as we enter the last week of 2022. Broader markets also, which sold off very aggressively, came back forcefully. Decent kind of gain, 60-70% of Friday's losses recouped today. And banks, PSU banks, especially the public sector bank index from the December 14th high had lost 14%. In a single day today, it gained 7%. That was big. The private bank index did well. Metals as a space was up about 2% or so. Some nifty gainers on your screen: IndusInd, SBI, Hindalco and more. In the broader markets, advance decline was extremely strong. Some 7 advances for every stock which was down. The gainers from the PSU bank space, the private financial space, Yes Bank, Poonawalla, J&K. Defense names, especially Mazgaon, Garden Reach, Cochin Shipyard, Bharat Dynamics, and so on and so forth. It's a good comeback after 2 days of ferocious selling. Let's see if we can hold this. Very little by way of global cues, mind you. US markets are shut today, later, so we come back with very thin global cues, but it's going to remain like that at least for the next fortnight or so. 18,050, which is very nearby, remains something to watch out for. The market starts to trade above that. We can aim and hope for higher levels, but that's the first one. The market needs to keep its head above. Back to you.
All right, thank you very much, Prashant, for joining us. Let's move on to the top corporate story that we continue to track here at CNBC. The Central Bureau of Investigation has received a 3-day custody of Videocon Group's chairman VN Dhoot. ICICI Bank's former CEO Chanda Kochar and her husband Deepak Kochar will also remain in CBI custody for 3 more days. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 that VN Dhoot has agreed to turn an approver for the CBI. Let me go across now to Santhya Gora, who's standing by with more details. Santhya, what really made the CBI go ahead and arrest all the three accused in this case 4 years after the FIR was filed?
See, Parikshit, that's a question which is not there, which is on everyone's mind, especially defense counsels, and that's exactly why, whether it was on Saturday or today, every single time defense counsels are asking this question to the CBI, that why after all these years these arrests are made. Now, how exactly public prosecutor has responded to it? He has to say that it was off late that the accused did not cooperate with the agency, so the agency did not have any other option but to place them under arrest. In fact, today, court also gave the investigating officer of the case an opportunity to enlighten the court about the status of the case. About that, investigating officer told the court that in December itself, on 16th of December, it was for the first time that all these three accused, they were summoned by the agency, but at that time, none of them came. Then after that, it was on 22nd of December that Venugopal Dhut appeared before the agency, but at that time, coachers didn't. And then 23rd of December, coachers appeared before the CBI, but Venugopal Dhut did not. The IO told the court that, and CBI needed all these three accused to be present in the office at the same time so that they could be confronted with each other. But because that didn't happen, so CBI did not have any other option but to arrest them. So this was the major ground for arrest claimed by CBI, Parikshit. That was the same thing which the agency told the court on Saturday as well, that it was non-cooperation on behalf of the coachers, that they had to place them under arrest. And for Dhut also, today they said the same thing, that Venugopal Dhut also was evasive. He was not appearing before the agency, and in fact some of the answers which he was giving were also not correct. Now there's another interesting thing which happened here, Parikshit. While arguing their case, defense counsels, they said that if we talk about the Kochar couple lawyer, they said that both Chanda Kochar and Deepak Kochar, they carried documents with them when they were summoned and asked to appear before the agency. In fact, Chanda Kochar carried a proper sheet of how the bank was functioning when she was at the helm of the bank. Deepak Kochar carried more than 2,000 pages document, but the agency did not accept those documents. Similar claims were made by Venugopal Dhut's lawyer as well. To that, the defense CBI once again said that they were not cooperating. To that, defense said that if they were ready to appear before the agency, if they were bringing all these documents, how exactly the CBI, the agency, can claim non-cooperation. But that's the main ground of arrest as far as the agency is concerned, Parikshit.
Right. Of course, the CBI would have to prove a lot in the case going forward. One, what was the new evidence that led to the arrest? Did Venugopal Dhut, who has now offered himself as an approver, did he share anything with the CBI? And to what extent can the abuse of power be proved as well, considering all the decisions that Chanda Kochar took was as part of a committee, a sanctioning committee of the bank? So how will they show that decision was taken with everyone's consensus, and how she forced everyone to take that decision as well? Those are some of the things that the CBI will have to prove in the days to come. Thanks, Santhya, for joining us. Let's move on to the other big story we have been looking at. Private equity firm Advent is set to acquire controlling stake in Suven Pharma from the selling promoters, who see this as a succession move. The deal allows Advent to explore the merger of its portfolio co-hands with Suven Pharma. Ekta Batra joins us now. Ekta, take us through the contours of the deal.
Thanks for that. Well, yes, the big news is that Advent has entered into a share purchase agreement and they will be acquiring 50.1% stake in Suven Pharma for around 495 rupees per share, which turns out to be a deal size of around 6,300 odd crores. Now, the mode of payment for this particular acquisition is going to be cash. Now, the promoter group will continue to hold around 9.9% stake in the company after the deal. Advent will also launch an open offer. If it goes through entirely, they will hold 76% stake in the company. Reason for the stake sale is because the company has indicated they were unable to bring a proper succession plan in place. Venkat Justi's role post the deal, they're likely to stay on for a period of time. Suven Life, remember that's the R&D arm of Suven. They have no plans to fund Suven Life as of now, which is basically from the Suven Pharma funds. Suven Life, in fact, raised around 400 crores from the rights issue, and hence the company is well funded for 2 years. That's what Mr. Venkat Justi has indicated. Now, Advent's plans post the acquisition, they intend to explore a merger of its portfolio company Cohance Life with Suven. Aim will be to build basically a leading end-to-end CDMO as well as merchant API player. They will focus on servicing the pharma as well as the specialty chemical markets. Now, we did speak to Advent. A couple of key points is that Cohance's first half FY23 revenue is tracking similarly to what FY22 was, or around 1,300 odd crores, 28% margins. Combined margins would be around 30 odd %, and as of now, they're not considering delisting at this point.
All right, thanks Ekta Batra for joining us. On to a CNBC-TV18 exclusive now. As the relaunch of Jet Airways continues to remain uncertain, we learn from sources that the Jalan Calroc Consortium is having to say goodbye to some senior and mid-senior level employees, along with pilots and cabin crew. Madhiya Mujawar joins us with more. Madhiya, what's happening at Jet Airways?
Well, many factors at play here that explain why Jet Airways is seeing departure of employees even before the much talked about relaunch. Let me first begin with what sources have told CNBC-TV18. Among the top exits, the Vice President of Engineering and the Vice President of Human Resources have exited Jet Airways. Besides other senior management, the Chief Executive Officer and Chief Financial Officer are working on slashed salaries. The Vice President of In-Flight Services has been sent on leave without pay. The company had kept pilots and cabin crew on standby for the relaunch, but we learned that many of these pilots and cabin crew have quit to join other airlines. Now, these were employees from the core team. Now, ever since the Jalan Calroc Consortium implemented the cost-cutting measures, some staff at the managerial and junior level who were either given pay cuts or sent on leave without pay have also quit the company. Sources tell us some mid-senior level employees currently working with Jet at a reduced salary or no pay at all are in the process of joining other airlines. Let me tell you, these developments are not surprising given the standoff between the Jalan Calroc Consortium and the lenders over the transfer of airlines ownership. Matters even got more complicated after the NCLAT order that directed the consortium to make additional payments for PF and gratuity of employees. So with payments not made, ownership not transferred, and employees losing patience, the future of Jet Airways 2.0 remains quite uncertain.
All right, thank you very much, Madhiya, for joining us with those important stories, especially about the exits from Jet Airways. Moving on, Tata Sons chairman N. Chandrasekaran delivers his New Year message to employees of the conglomerate, says increasing consumption, consumer confidence and investment will support India's growth story, although the global environment has several risk factors. He said that the group experienced significant milestones in 2022, including welcoming Air India back. Added, the group will approach 2023 with a theme of sustainability. Focusing on the COVID situation in the country, India saw 190 new COVID infections, with active cases marginally increasing to a little over 3,400 in the last 24 hours. No new deaths have been reported so far. Meanwhile, Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia met doctors and representatives of the Indian Medical Association to take stock of the COVID situation in the country. And Abhimanyu Sharma joins us with more on what happened in that meeting. Abhimanyu, what are you learning from doctors, members of the Indian Medical Association who attended that meeting with the Health Minister?
The Union Health Minister today held a virtual meeting with prominent doctors from across India. He said that there was no reason to panic as of now, as the BF7 variant was already present in India and the non-existence of a zero COVID policy and a high vaccination rate had already ensured that a large section of the Indian population was immunized. However, he said that there was some need to exercise caution, observe social distancing as well as masking and following of COVID-appropriate behavior. A mock drill is slated to be conducted across various hospitals tomorrow across the country, where the Union Health Minister and State Health Ministers will remain present to check for COVID preparedness. Also, the doctors who were present in the meeting were asked to clarify the official stand of the medical fraternity in order to ensure that there is no spread of fake information or fake news, and the minister stressed on the need to dispel any false news or information which is floating in the public domain.
The government is looking at significant fiscal savings as it allowed the PM Kisan Anna Yojana to end. Sources tell us that the additional annual cost for distributing free food grains under the Food Security Act is hardly 0.1% of the GDP. Sapna Das gets us more.
After 28 months since the scheme first started, the cabinet has finally decided to allow PMGKY to sunset. Instead, the government will provide free food grains under the PDS from Jan 1. Even the highly subsidized rates of 3 rupees per kilo for rice and 2 rupees per kilo for wheat under PDS will be waived. Government estimates a total food subsidy at 2 lakh crore for 1 full year from Jan to December in 2023. Essentially, the quantum of food grains available for the poor will now come down. Till December 31, grains under the Food Security Act and the Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana will be available. Both put together, this is a massive average of 50 kilo of rice and wheat per month per family. But from Jan 1, only the normal PDS allocation of an average 30 kilos per family per month will be available, free of cost. The closure of PMGKY will be a significant fiscal positive for the government. Sources tell CNBC-TV18 the additional annual cost to the government for distributing food grains free of charge under the NFSA is likely to be only around 20 to 20,000 crores, hardly 0.1% of the GDP. Importantly, this additional cost is already factored in the 2 lakh crore estimate for calendar 2023. In comparison, the additional cost of PMGKY this fiscal is estimated at 1.20 lakh crore, over 1% of the GDP. 60,000 crores of this additional liability has been provided in the supplementary demands for grants, while the balance 60,000 crores is likely to come through in the revised estimates of the budget on Feb 1. Just how costly PMGKY has proved is evident from the galloping food subsidy. Before COVID hit India, the food subsidy was penciled at 1.15 lakh crore for FY21. Post-COVID and PMGKY, it rose by a massive 148% in FY22, and this fiscal will touch a record high of 3.20 lakh crore only on account of PMGKY extensions. We can thus conclude, with the COVID-led deaths and economic hardship receding, the government did not want the fist to hemorrhage any further, and so it carved out a safe passage by allowing food grains completely free under the time-tested PDS, while allowing the Garib Kalyan Ann Yojana to sunset.
All right, thank you very much for bringing us the fine print of the food security scheme that was announced by the cabinet on Friday, Sapna. Let's move on. The Task Force on Animation, Visual Effects, Gaming and Comics has submitted a report to the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting for boosting the growth of the sector. Danish Anand joins us. Danish, what has the Task Force recommended?
The task force on AVGC submitted the report to INB Minister and has made many key suggestions. The task force is very bullish about AVGC's future in India and feels that this sector can generate at least 20 lakh jobs in the next 8 to 10 years. The task force has suggested that a national AVGC mission with a budget outlay should be created, and the government should launch a Create in India campaign with exclusive focus on content creation in India and for the world. The government can evaluate PLI scheme to incentivize AVGC hardware manufacturing, and in order to promote AVGC technologies, government can think about incentivizing the schemes for R&D and IP creation. The task force also suggested to organize an international gaming expo, and further the task force recommended to establish a national center of excellence for the AVGC sector. And in order to increase knowledge for AVGC, the task force has suggested to introduce AVGC course content at school levels, UG and PG courses. And for enhancing ease of doing business in the sector, the government can deliberate on giving tax benefits and relief in import duties. Well, after this report, the government will work on making policies for the AVGC sector.
All right. Thank you very much for joining us, Danish, with the recommendations of the task force. Let's see if the budget has something in store for the audio-visual sector as well. Moving on, this is on the banking sector. 2022 brought healthy loan growth and profitability for banks. The challenge of growing loan books in the face of rising interest rates have not become daunting as yet, and banks say they are in a pretty strong position to deal with these challenges. Abhishek Kothari balances the books of 2022 for the Indian banking sector.
Well, 2022 has been a phenomenal year for the banking sector. Bankers have a reason to smile as they move away from the pain of NPA cycle to healthy loan growth and profitability. So talking about profitability, profits for the sector on a quarterly basis has increased from rupees 36,854 crores in Q2 FY22 to right now about 58,717 crore as of Q2 FY23. Now, factors that have helped in improving the profitability of the banks is improvement in loan growth and reduction in stress portfolio of the banks. So loan growth for the banking sector as of Q2 FY23 was at 16.44%, perhaps one of the highest that you saw from 1st of November 2013. The rise in loan growth helped in stronger top-line growth for the banking sector, which has helped the bottom line or the earnings of the banks. So the loan growth incrementally has been driven by the retail segment. Now corporates have started to come back for working capital loans as money market rates have shot up through the roof. So capex-based demand going ahead may augur well for healthy loan growth rate for the banking sector. Stronger loan growth has also translated into healthy operating profit growth for the banking sector. Operating profits of the sector has grown from 97,383 crore in Q2 FY22 to right now a little under 1,15,000 crore as of Q2 FY23. Stress reduction. The banking sector has seen its gross NPA ratio decline from 7.4% in Q2 FY22 to right now about 5.24% in Q2 FY23. In value wise, the decline has been 15.2% YOY in Q2 FY23. The declining gross NPA amount wise has largely been led by the PSU banks. Now PSU banks gross NPA on a value wise has declined by 15.9% YOY, that is from Q2 FY22 to Q2 FY23, while that of private sector banks has declined by 12.7% in the same period. So PSU banks, the gross NPA ratio has declined by 256 basis points from Q2 FY22 to Q2 FY23, while that of private sector banks has declined by 119 basis points in the same period. Banks' balance sheet has strengthened with their core provision coverage ratio increasing from 69.7% in Q2 FY22 to right now about 74.6% in Q2 FY23. PSU Bank's core provision coverage ratio has increased to 74.9% in Q2 FY23 when compared to a little under 70% in Q2 FY22, and that of private sector banks has increased to 74.4% in Q2 FY23 versus 69% that they had a year ago. So for 2023, the loan growth could remain strong and could be in double digits. Net interest margin will continue to expand till Q4 FY23 results as loans are getting repriced faster and at a healthier rate. Return ratios will expand as credit costs will come down and stress in the balance sheet will continue its downward trajectory.
All right. Thanks very much, Abhishek Kothari, for that exhaustive remote. Let's move on and get you a CNBC-TV18 special now. Remember that latest XUV 700 or Scorpio N that you saw on the road? There's a 50% chance its engine was assembled by the women at Mahindra's Chakan plant. As part of our ongoing campaign, Future Female Forward, a women's collective, CNBC-TV18's Shilpa Rani Peta reports on how Mahindra is breaking the myth that co-manufacturing roles are best suited for men.
Twenty-three-year-old Shweta Joshi leads a team of 9 male associates. Their job? Ensuring that every XUV 700 and Scorpio N car that's churned out of Mahindra's Chakan plant comes with a top-notch paint job. It's not a role one expects to do after studying mechanical engineering, but Joshi says the company ensured she had the training and support to slip into the role with ease.
फर्स्ट मेरा चैलेंजिंग यही था कि मैं मैकेनिकल से पेंट में काम कर रही हूँ, तो वो चीज़ मेरे लिए बहुत चैलेंजिंग थी स्टार्ट में, बट यहाँ पे जो ट्रेनिंग मिली मुझे तो वो मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगा। और मेरे अंदर 9 एसोसिएट है जो मैं मेरी टीम लीड करती हूँ, तो उसमें लीडिंग की एक कॉन्फिडेंस आया है कि मैं हाँ लोगों को लीड कर सकती हूँ। जो फ्रीडम मिला मेरे को, जो तुम करना चाहो तुम कर सकते हो, R&D कर सकते हो उसके ऊपर, तो उसकी वजह से काम करने में दिलचस्पी आ गई।
Joshi says this training has also given her better insight when it comes to managing her home and her finances. And Joshi is not alone in this regard. Nearly 40% of the workers in this paint shop and 50% on the engine line in this Chakan plant that makes the XUV 700 and the Scorpio N are women. And not just that, the company's Swaraj tractor plant in Mohali also has 70% of women employed on the shop floor. And the ratio, M&M says, is set to grow. Many of these women believe this is a big step in breaking the notion that core manufacturing roles are best suited for men. They say the talent pool is available, but the real change in mindsets has to come from the top. This includes, but is not restricted to, providing amenities like safe transportation and daycare facilities, which help women professionals keep a healthy work-life balance.
उन लोगों को एश्योरिटी मिल जाए कि हाँ तुम यहाँ पे सेफ हो, तो फिर वो लेडीज़ ऑब्वियसली काम करेगी. और दूसरा ये है कि जो ट्रांसपोर्टेशन होता है वो इजीली अगर अवेलेबल हो जाए लेडीज़ के लिए, तो पेरेंट्स भी सेफ फील करेंगे. लेडीज़, प्रेग्नेंट लेडीज़ जो होती है उनके लिए जो क्रेच की पॉलिसी है वो भी हर कंपनी में होनी चाहिए, इसलिए उनका करियर में गैप नहीं पड़ेगा, वो आ सकती है. और जो कंपनीज़ है जो बोलते हैं कि हाँ लेडीज़ ये नहीं करेगा वो नहीं करेगा, यहाँ पे मेन को डालो, ये थिंग एक्चुअली बंद करनी चाहिए. क्योंकि अगर लेडीज़ ऐसी चीज़ है कि उसको अगर उसी में डाल दिया, ट्रेनिंग दे दिया ना, तो वो कर सकती है.
But even the M&M management admits that a lot more needs to be done, especially to promote women participation across various levels of any organization. Even at M&M, women representation at the corporate level is still at 34%, and the road to push this higher is a long one.
In India in particular, we see a lot less female participation in leadership. So at the shop floor, it has changed a lot, and that goes from the practices in the company. But we haven't done as good a job at the leadership level. That's something we are driving very hard right now.
But the journey has begun.
With special initiatives and programs specifically designed for women, the company is taking steps in the right direction to improve gender parity, not just within the organization, but externally as well.
Most recently, M&M has partnered with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to support women's economic empowerment in India by designing and implementing programs that will focus on giving underprivileged women the opportunities to steer their lives to the next level. The target? Reach and impact lives of 1 million women every year starting 2026. In Chakan, Pune, Shilpa Ranipeta.
All right. Thank you very much, Shilpa, for that report from the Mahindra factory in Chakan. And keep watching our stories as part of our year-long campaign, Future Female Forward. With that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.